Welcome back to the Two-Tone Report. I'm Ryan Smith. Ethan Jacobs above me. We talked about the draft in the last episode, our 3-round mock draft, where it's pretty consistent on what we were looking for. Just, a couple different players, depending on who's there. Who knows, right? We won't know until draft night starts and that pick comes through. But before draft night, before the wonderful thing we call the NFL draft, there's free agency and potential trades that the Tennessee Titans could be making. Ethan, I know your thoughts on the trades are a little bit different than mine. I think they will do something you don't.
I do not. I do not think they will.
Why do you think that?
I think we're prioritizing young talent on the team, and I feel like a draft pick to Borgonzi at the moment would be more valuable than whether it's an aging player, whether it's a star or not. I realize the point of drafting is to hopefully get a player of the caliber that you're trading for. So why not do the surefire thing and trade for the player? I personally think George Pickens, because that's who Ryan would want to trade for.
Yes, that's what I think is going to probably end up happening.
Not quite the culture fit in Tennessee that we're looking for. We don't have the standard yet. We are about a year behind. We're about a year behind that. And I think he's going to want a 1-year deal, 1 or 2 year, try to check it out. And yeah, I just think we're going to go the draft.
And that's fair, but there are 3 guys in particular that and this is purely dating towards wide receivers, that I think the Titans could trade for. I think George Pickens is the most likely out of everybody because I know he got franchise tagged by the Cowboys. They do not have enough money to pay him what he's going to want. He's going to want $30 million plus a year. And I looked into it. You know how much cap space the Cowboys have invested into their top 10 guys? And this is not including the franchise tag 70%. With George Pickens. Okay, you threw the math at me. You threw the percent at me there. I don't know the percent specifically.
60%.
It's $260 million
60 or 70%.
Out of the kill yourself. It's $260 million out of the projected 301 to 305 million. You're gonna have $45 million left over to try and pay out the rest of this roster. Because with guys like Dak, who's taking $70 million into cap space for a cap hit this year, you've got CeeDee Lamb, who I think is taking about $30 or $40 million this year. You've got your trio of defensive tackles in Odigizua, Quinnen Williams, and Kenny Smith. I think Tyler Smith as well is taking about $20 million in there. They do not have the money because the whole point of franchise tagging him, I'm sure in the old, decrepit, dementia-ridden face of Jerry Jones, is we're going to try and re-sign him to a 4-year whatever he wants deal.
$5 million deal.
He might, but
he wants to be a Cowboy.
He plays for the star on his helmet, the name across his chest. He wants money, and he's going to want probably $30+ million a year. The Titans have that money to give him. They have the need of a top-end wide receiver.
Yes.
I mean, they don't have the leverage Dallas does to be able to keep him, or the money to be able to keep him. They just don't. They don't have the resources to be able to keep him.
Let me clarify this. I would be perfectly content. Not content. I would be happy if we traded for George Pickens. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it is a culture thing, and we're going to prioritize young talent.
No, I understand.
I think we're a year away from that. I just wanted to put that out there in the world. If it happens, you're going to see me. I just don't want anyone, my dad, calling me and being like, hey, you didn't want George Pickens. I do want George Pickens. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I think out of all of these trades that I'm about to talk about, this is the most likely to happen. I think outside of some one-off shitter trade that sends off a bag of Doritos for a bag of toast, fucking whatever.
Pick swap, dude, or something.
Literally, it's something stupid like that. When it comes to these big trades, like you said, I think George Pickens is the most likely. because of, like I said, they don't have the money to pay him long term. He's going to want a long term contract. I think he's like 27 years old, 26 years old, so he is still very much in his prime.
Yes.
And the biggest thing with him is that he showed he can be a true wide receiver one, because when CeeDee Lamb went out last year, he was still able to put up big numbers. He went for over 1,400 yards this year, which, you look at the top, you look at the top three guys for the Titans, he had more than them combined, receiving yards wise. So it's just and I understand the culture part of it, where it's like, this guy, I think all you had to do is go back to his draft night pick and to say that this dude was going to be a fucking problem. But when it comes to the actual production, because when he was taken out in Pittsburgh, that was a crap situation for him with, a cajillion different quarterbacks that he was running with. He gets a quarterback who, he has a massive cap hit in Dak, but you can't deny that he's not a really good quarterback in the NFL and what he's just been able to do.
If you say that Dak is not a good quarterback, you just don't.
You just don't like the Cowboys. That's fine, but he is a good quarterback. He probably should have won MVP a couple of years ago. I think it was 23. It was 23, I think. It was the year Lamar won it.
Yeah.
He should have won MVP because he had the best. Yeah. He had the best stats.
And Lamar should have won it last year when Josh Allen won it, and then
they actually got it right this year.
This year they actually got it right. I agree.
They got it right. I think we were pretty much perfect on all of our picks, by the way.
I think we were.
Because we had.
I said Puka.
Did you say Puka? Oh.
Yeah, but
I was perfect.
It was
Suck
a toss-up,
idiot.
Between JSN. I was like, okay, it could have been JSN.
Yeah.
I like JSN more, but I think Puka's put up more numbers. I did that. But then again, it was one of those things, if Stafford wins MVP, it's going to be JSN for offensive player of the year. But everything else, I think we
pretty much got it right, because it was Stafford won MVP. I know at the very least I got the offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year was, you could literally blindfold you could say whatever and you knew it was going to be.
One free money.
Exactly. It's a good literally. So Myles Garrett, defensive player of the year, and then the offensive rookie was Tet, and then defensive rookie was Schlesinger from the Browns. The rest of them I don't really care. I think, what was it? McDaniel won OC.
I did get that wrong. I did say Kubiak for assistant coach.
I forget who the other one was. I think it was Vrabel for coach of the year. I think comeback was who? It was McCaffrey, right?
I think so.
That makes sense. I think McCaffrey was the comeback player of the year, and I think we both said him, because I don't even know who else it would have been, honestly.
There's no one else that wasn't Trevor Lawrence on that list. Was Trevor Lawrence on that list?
Maybe
could have been Trevor.
It was somebody. There was somebody else on that list who was like maybe, but it was going to be McCaffrey no matter what. So, got all those right, but still, going back to what we were actually talking about. I understand the culture part of it with George Pickens, but you just can't deny his talent and what he was able to do with Dallas this year. And you think about what getting Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen, and we know the fucking character that he is. I saw all the memes where it's like you got the police waiting for Diggs outside to go take him away to jail for some bullshit. So it's like we know the character that he is, but yet he was...
had more
Bills fans
catches on Super Bowl.
Exactly. Bills fans might not want to say it, but he was an instrumental part in why Josh Allen became the way that he did. Why can't George Pickens be that for Cam Ward? And I think if they were to trade for him, I don't necessarily think they would have to give up a first-round pick. They wouldn't give up this year's. I don't think they'll give up this year's pick. Next year's is kind of the interesting one, right, in 2027, and the way I'm rationalizing it is if you were going to trade for George Pickens, you do not see yourself as a team who is going to be in the race for a guy like a Jeremiah Smith or a Cam Coleman. Because I think that's what's going to end up being the whole process of it, right? Is that if you are sitting there saying we're going to go get Jeremiah Smith or Cam Coleman, then obviously you want to keep that first round pick, because that means you're probably not going to be very good this year, and you're going to want to do that. If you think you're going to be good this year and you think you're going to have an opportunity to be in the playoff race, so be in anywhere from that 10 to 15 pick range, or if they do decide to make a wild card game, be even deeper back than that, you were never going to be in the race for Jeremiah Smith or Cam Coleman. So going out and sending off your first round pick next year for a pick that you were probably going to end up taking a wide receiver with anyways, because the wide receiver class is just so freaking good next year, then, I mean, going and getting a bona fide talent, because we saw what's happened so far with Marvin Harrison Jr., who's another interesting guy that I don't think they're going to, that really wasn't on my list, but another one of those guys who just has the talent, but hasn't really looked all that great, and it hasn't all been the quarterback's fault, is the funny part about that. But with George Pickens, it's like, you might not have to send over a first round pick. I was saying maybe send over a second rounder this year, second round next year, and then, give him like an early day 3, maybe late day 2 next year as well. So that's what I was sort of thinking. I don't think you necessarily have to give up a first round pick to get George Pickens because of the just lack of leverage that the Cowboys have in this scenario. Because, like I said, $45 million, and this isn't including saving for draft picks. This is including the draft picks from, that are still under contract from a couple of seasons ago. This isn't including George Pickens' deal where he's franchise tag. I think it's like $22 million, $22.5 million, I think is what it is. It's like, it's into the $20 million range, like 20 millions. So that's a whole nother reflection off of that. They're not going to have the money to pay him. So I don't think, and there's no chance that you sit here and say that this roster that the Cowboys have is good enough to warrant restructuring contracts like Dak's and like CeeDee Lamb's to where you're completely fucking over your future to try and go win a Super Bowl with a team with a roster that's just not ready yet, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That would be the only way they would have enough money to keep him. And they're not going to do that or they shouldn't do it. I will never say never with Jerry Jones, because that guy, if it wasn't for the fact that he owned the Cowboys, probably be in a nursing home at this point. I don't think he knows what's going on half the time. But my point being in all of this is, unless Jerry Jones is actually insane enough, which I don't think he is, to completely screw over the future of this team and being able to sign picks and sign guys, basically screwing over the future of this team to try and go win a Super Bowl with a roster that clearly isn't ready, and by restructuring Dak and CeeDee's contracts, they're not going to be able to hold on to George Pickens. So you're going to have leverage if you're Tennessee, if you're Mike Borgonzi. I don't necessarily think they're going to have to give up a first-round pick to go get him. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's probably what's going to end up happening, but I don't think you have to. But that's my big trade. Outside of that, I just don't really know. I don't really see any other big trades happening. But I think George Pickens is the one that's like, if this happens, I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest because of everything surrounding Dallas and the very glaring hole of a true wide receiver 1 in Tennessee, where it feels like every year they get the aging vet that just wants to keep playing to go suit up in two-tone blue. I didn't realize this. I think I saw a picture, and I might really out myself here. Did I see a picture of Randy Moss as a Titan?
Yes, you did.
My point being, they picking up a lot of aging vets who want to keep playing. So that being said,
is us and the Ravens, dude. That's what we do. I don't know why it's us and the Ravens, but we always pick up the 33-year-old receiver that is done, and they usually come here, catch about 10 balls.
That's it.
They're out.
Julio Jones. That's it.
I mean,
that seems to be. So why not make it the case that you go out and get a guy who's actually in his prime and can go out and
be a draft one?
That's
There's
true.
The guy I'm thinking of.
I think it's with the Eagles.
Receivers in the league.
Right?
Ooh, crap. I don't know if it's ever happened before, having a young receiver that you draft.
Treylon Burks.
Yeah, it's Treylon Burks. That's who it was. Oh.
Hey, man, you see that catch he had? You see that one-hander? Dude.
It was a great catch.
Crazy.
Great catch. Great catch.
What happened?
Love that for him.
That's awesome, man. But
hope that continues.
I think the other two, and I'm just gonna very quickly gloss over these two, that I could see them, is Garrett Wilson, and as much as I hate it, Jalen Waddle, because, and it's more with Jalen Waddle than Wilson because of the new regime in Miami. You don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know what their plan is going to be to try and rebuild the Dolphins to try and get them back to the playoffs. You don't know what that's going to be. You don't know if that's going to include Jalen or not. And obviously, you don't know how he feels. His former quarterback just got benched and is probably going to end up getting cut either this year or next year. Probably not going to get traded, but probably going to end up getting cut. So you don't know what his feelings are in Miami now. I would call up new GM, John Eric Sullivan, and see what he's thinking. Be like, hey, because I know he was somebody who was a guy who got was a lot of calls for Jalen Waddle, the Bills being one of them, who offered a first-round pick this past year and then proceeded to just completely annihilate them in the next game. But that, you don't know what the thought process is going to be. And the reason I say Jalen Waddle is a little bit more realistic than what Garrett Wilson is because we know what Woody Johnson feels about Garrett Wilson. During the trade deadline when they were sending off guys, sending off Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, he explicitly said, hey, Garrett Wilson he's going to be with us for the long term. He is a guy who is going to be a part of this young core and is going to be a key piece of this franchise. So they're not trading him. So we know how Woody Johnson feels about Garrett Wilson. Then again, I'm sure his point of view in New York is quickly fading, just like a lot of talented first round picks that end up going to the hellhole that is MetLife Stadium.
Sorry, Arvell Reese.
Rip him. We'll see. I think for both of those guys, you're going to have to give up at least a first round pick, if not multiple, because both those guys are under contract for the next couple of years. It's not like with George Pickens where he's on the franchise tag. He's only here for a year, and they're not going to be able to pay him. They already paid him. They're already on the roster for multiple seasons. I think Garrett Wilson is at $32 million, and Jalen Waddle's at like 20-some-odd million.
What do you think Jalen Waddle's worth?
What I think Jalen Waddle's worth? At least a first-round pick, just because of the biggest thing with him is he struggles to finish games a lot. He gets hurt during the middle of games and will come back later. It just gets weird because he doesn't necessarily pop up on the injury report a whole lot. It's just he just kind of gets hurt during a game, gets shaken up. I think it's partially because of his size. He's not the biggest wide receiver, but I think you got him on a really good deal for a wide receiver of his caliber because even when he's on the field, he's still a really good wide receiver. He is still a wide receiver 1 caliber player. Problem is that he kind of struggles to stay on the field during games. Doesn't struggle to start them, struggles to stay on it during it because he'll take some weird hit and then go out for a drive or two. But I think it's going to take at least a first-round pick for him. I think the biggest haul you're going to have to give up is for Garrett Wilson. So much for that good start. So, I think it's going to take multiple first-round picks for Garrett Wilson. I think it'll probably end up taking potentially a first-rounder this year, definitely a first-rounder next year. I could also see them sending over a guy like Calvin Ridley as well to try and fill in the stopgap and just, I could see that happening as well. But out of all three of those guys, it's going to be George Pickens, I think, is the most realistic of trade candidates. And like I said, the only other reason I did those other two guys was because the Jets they did sell at the deadline this last year, and even with Woody Johnson's feelings, you give up, you put the right number out there. They've been hoarding 2027 picks. They'll take it for Garrett Wilson, and I think he's absolutely worth it. And with Jalen Waddle, you don't know what that new Dolphins regime is going to think of him, on whether he is going to be a guy who is going to be there for, this next rebuild that they're going to have to go through. So those are my three. I'm curious on what you think with the last two. We already said what you think about George Pickens, but with Waddle and with Wilson, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on that.
I would be pretty happy with Jalen Waddle. Garrett Wilson would be too expensive. I just think they're expecting a whole lot from that, and it would be reunited with Salah, and I think he's a really solid player. I just don't think. The
price tag's going to be too high for him.
Yeah, if none of these trades happen, I'm perfectly content. I am perfectly content. Would I be happy with any of them? To some degree, yes, I would be. Like having Garrett Wilson for Cam Ward would be awesome. Having Jalen Waddle for Cam Ward would be awesome, but you're giving up a lot of value
Yeah.
that I think you need to help, your future. I think right now we're in the position that draft picks matter more than, one player, especially if it's multiple picks.
No, I agree with you, and that's why I think out of all of these, the one with the least, the lesser price tag, with it being George Pickens, I think that's why it's the most realistic. Because I don't think you're going to have to send over a first round pick. I've already gone on my spiel on that. I'm not going to go into it again, but I don't think you're going to have to send over a first round pick if you really want to get him, because they just don't have leverage. But moving on from trades, that's kind of the unrealistic part of all of this. Free agency, obviously being where you're going to build teams and things like that. We're going to stick with wide receiver. It's the guy you expect to be with the Titans here in 2026. A one Mr. Former New York Football Giant.
It's true. I am thinking in free agency, one of our first pickups will be Wan'Dale Robinson. Worked with Brian Daboll in New York. Clearly, they're familiar with each other. He's familiar with the scheme. He can help teach to the other players, like kind of what's going on, where it needs to be. Help be a little teacher in that room. And I think it'd be great. I think he's a really solid player too. Like, he's not just a scrub. They had over 1,000 yards this season. I think he's really good in this scheme. And I'd love to see him get signed. I think it would be perfect, and I think this is where you fill in that role. Like, I think this team is 100% poised to make a big turnaround. It is. But these are the signings that aren't as flashy, that aren't as big name, that make a huge difference. These make your team go from a bad team where you're only throwing to fourth-round receivers into an average NFL offense with an average, not even an average, a good play caller. Jesus Christ, Tennessee fans haven't seen that in the last 5 years. We'll take this. This is what we need. This is the medicine. Take the player that is not the big name, be happy with it, and just watch the offense be functional. This is the stuff that matters, and I feel like Wan'Dale Robinson is a perfect addition in our wide receiver room, which fills a pretty big hole, and you can address that later in the draft or in the first round, whatever you want to do. This is just a hole that's being filled.
Yeah, and I think, with Wan'Dale, obviously, you hit the nail on the head with him being familiar with the system, obviously has good production in it as well. But another part of it is this still leaves room for a wide receiver one to kind of assume that role. Because with Wan'Dale, and I don't think the expectation is ever for him to be the feature wide receiver in the room. That's obviously last year was a little bit different because you had Malik Nabers, who obviously ended up getting hurt, but Malik Nabers was sort of supposed to be the guy. And then he comes in, takes over that role, plays good, like you said, good stats.
Wan'Dale flourishes. Yeah. Wan'Dale has a great season because of that.
It's like,
They play great next to each other. And you still have Calvin Ridley, of course. No one says that you have to cut Calvin Ridley. He was injury prone this last year, broke his leg. But before that, it's not good. He had over 1,000 yards for us the year previously. He's still a talented player. He's still a solid player. He's still got a lot of speed. And his dead cap's quite a hit. Just keep him for one more year till that dead cap lessens a little bit. He can be a factor in the offense. That's my opinion. If they cut him, they cut him. It's one of those things that if it happens, it happens. But if he ends up being on the team, I'm not going to be pissed off about it. He's this talented ass player. Anyone who watches Calvin Ridley in the game, you're like, holy shit, that's a player. But he's just not playing that much, especially this past year. And it's tough. And the year before that, Will Levis was throwing him the ball. And he just, or Mason Rudolph was throwing him the ball. Sorry.
God bless.
And that's just a disaster. So let's give him 1 year to really work with Cam in a solid offense. And Cam's year 2. Wan'Dale Robinson at number 2. You have DK and you have Ellick and you have all these other guys that can come in and fill roles. And that, I think, in my mind, could make it a solid enough roster in the wide receiver room to be functional. I think you just need one pretty good signing, and this could be it. Maybe fill in a little bit more in the draft.
But. Yeah, the only question I have on that is even with, I know you're raving a lot about Calvin Ridley, but if they do end up going with Wan'Dale Robinson, do you want to see Calvin Ridley at that wide receiver one, or do you think they'll end up, trying to go after somebody, whether it be, in the draft, to try and kind of fill that hole, potentially as a wide receiver one, whether, with that second round pick like we mentioned last episode?
Honestly, I would be perfectly. I like Calvin. Calvin had some issues dropping the ball, but that's also, according to PFF, there was a lot less drops on Calvin than I thought initially. Of course, those stats are a little wonky, of course.
Yeah, they're a little funky with those, but either way.
Because, I remember the Denver game alone, there was like 8 freaking drops, and I was pissing me off. And, of course, everyone always... there was a podcast, Matt Stafford, I forget where he was on, and he talked about coming into the league, and all he did was throw freaking rockets at everyone, because he was just trying to get the ball there.
Yeah.
Cam was the same way. Cam was launching it to everyone everywhere, so it's probably not the best placed ball. It's not the most wide receiver friendly ball. Should a $20 million, or however, I think it's $20 million a year,
I think it's like 22. Is it 22 or 27? I can't remember which, but
needs to catch that ball.
Yeah,
but it makes sense to why he had as many drops as he did. Yeah, I'd be perfectly content with that. I'd be happy with that. I like Calvin. He's a factor on the field, and he's a playmaker.
Yeah, I like the pickup. There's not really a whole lot more I can add to it. I really like that pickup for Wan'Dale Robinson, and then whatever they decide to do with wide receiver one, address it in the draft, stay with Calvin Ridley, and that's valid, right? Yeah, and that's a valid point.
We have him signed. I think a lot of people, especially fans, love, and I'm a fan. I'm with you. I want everyone. Send me Patrick Mahomes. We'll trade you Cam Ward. Just send me everyone. I just
be a Cowboy fan. Say he's a Cowboy. He's a Cowboy. That shit pisses me off, dude.
I think we as fans have had it so bad for so long because we want it all now. This is finally a moment where we have to be realistic and understand. Again, I said it earlier, take your medicine. Don't take the bid signing. Take the guy who's going to improve the floor of your team and be the best team you can be in this year, and then you build on it every year. There's always going to be an opportunity. There's going to be receivers like this every year, whether it's in the draft or whether it's in free agency. There will always be another opportunity. Do what's right now, and I think that's what's right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think this is going to it would be a really good pickup for them. And it leaves a lot of options open for this offense and what this wide receiver room could be in the next couple of years. But sort of moving on, I know there's still a lot of potential holes to fill on this offense. So what happens with Chig? Does he resign? Does he leave? What happens with some of the offensive line? I know Kevin Zeitler, you said, could potentially leave, retire, whatever. And then I want to say I saw left tackle being a bit of a, potential look at upgrading on that side of it. I want to say is what I saw. I could be wrong about that.
Dan Moore's on a 4-year contract, so he's not going anywhere.
Okay. Well, again, just kind of throwing that out there. But with offensive linemen, the big name being Tyler Linderbaum, I think everywhere has kind of said he's probably going to stay in Baltimore, which would be a really smart thing for them. He's one of the best centers in the league. So it would be really smart to keep him there. But somebody who I'm intrigued with is, and I know the injury history is going to scare Titans fans, bring back the flashbacks, but Elijah Vera Tucker, former first-round pick with the Jets. What a surprise, the Jets' first-round pick not working out in New York. And has had good seasons, has played well when he's on the field. It's just he cannot stay on the field. And that's the biggest risk with him. He cannot stay on the field, but when he's on the field, he is a starting caliber NFL guard. So I'm curious what you think about that. The injury history scares me, but I think he could be a really good pickup if Kevin Zeitler does decide to leave or retire or whatever. And even if he doesn't, to try and, keep him healthy have him on a back burner, and then bring in what could be potentially seen as a more talented player into that guard spot and kind of just take over for there, because you already have the left side, right? That's where Skoronski plays on the left side, right? Left guard.
Yes.
So
you've got Dan Moore, Skoronski, Cushenberry, blank spot, Latham.
Yeah, and like looking at it, that's the one spot, right? You just said it, blank spot, right guard. That's the one spot that's like could be a multitude of different players.
I think Zeiler's going to retire for sure. I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay, so then you have an open spot there. What do you think about Elijah Vera Tucker?
I think Elijah Vera Tucker would be great there. I mean, he's young. I mean, he's also playing in New York. Like, let's just be real. Who doesn't get hurt in New York? Like,
not a lot.
Horrible turf. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I realize it's not just like injuries and stuff like that, but
there's some voodoo magic going on.
You have Jackson Slater slated to be a guard down the line, but he came from a small school. He needs time to grow. As we said, it was a good thing he didn't play last year. Don't throw a guy out there in the water. Don't chum the water for this brother just to not even be able to like give him a chance. You know, let him grow, let him learn. I think he could be poised to take over that position eventually. We'll see. But Elijah Vera Tucker would be great to fill in that spot. But honestly, I might want to see an older player. I got to figure out who would want to be there, because let's see who's available.
I was trying to think on that. He was the name that stood out to me.
Isaac Sulamalo, I think he's going to probably sign back to Pittsburgh. David Edwards. Kevin Zeiler, old, really old. Dalton Reisner, that's Cincinnati. I wouldn't want to touch that with a 15-foot pole.
Yeah.
Cincinnati offensive lineman. Elijah Vera Tucker would be. He's a seasoned vet. He's been in the league for a little bit, but I would like.
Yeah, this is his first hit. This is his first hit into free agency, though. Is the one thing, because he just ended his 5th-year option with the Jets. I don't think, and that's the thing, and that's another tough thing with free agents now. It's like you don't necessarily. We got lucky with George Pickens, with the Cowboys already coming out and saying that we're going to franchise tag him, but with a lot of these other guys, you don't know who's going to get tagged. I don't think, and Vera Tucker's one of the few that's like, I don't think they're going to tag him. I don't think really anybody for the Jets is a worthy tag candidate. I think they're gonna let him walk just because he hadn't played enough. And like I said, that's the one scary thing with him, is that Lord knows that the Titans have had their fair share of offensive linemen. On paper that looks good, but then you get in the season and you get 3 games in and you already have the backup playing. So
yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing with him. The talent level is unquestionable. Like, he has it. The guy was a first-round pick for a reason. But do you trust him being able to stay healthy? We'll see. I mean, it's going to be really tough to see on that edge of it. Is there anybody else in particular that you were thinking of on the offensive line? Because that feels like maybe running back could be a spot that they look at. Even though, like, with Tony Pollard, they're probably not going to bring him back.
I think they cut Tony. They cut Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I thought he just went into free agency. My fault. But Tajay Spears, I think he's got 2 years left on his deal, 1 year left on his deal.
I think it's 1 year. Honestly, I think it's 1 year left.
Because I don't remember, he got drafted in 22, or was it 23?
It was Rand Carthon's first draft, so it was 21.
Was it 21?
I think. 22.
But I say, I don't think it would be 22, because he would have gotten cut by that point. Or he would have gone into free agency last year if that was the case. So if it was 22, which that makes more sense, this will be his last year. This will be the last year on his contract, because he was like, what, a 3rd-round pick, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wouldn't have had that 5th-year option on all those contracts for 4 years, unless it's like, I think you go into the later rounds, it gets to like the 1 or 2 year deals. But Tajay Spears is going to be sort of the lead back in this scenario, and he hasn't stayed healthy either. I think a good name to think of, depending on if he hits free agency, and once again, it's not like the Cowboys have a whole lot of, leverage in any of these scenarios, a lot of money to spend could be a Javonte Williams. He's going to be a free agent this year. Had a really good season with Dallas. He could be a name that I think the Titans would look for. Not much of a third down back per se. In that role, I feel like would be more towards Tyjae Spears, but you can't deny the running ability. He is a really hard runner, really hard in between the tackles, and I think would be a solid early down goal line back to have for Tennessee. Not similar to Derrick Henry. We're not going to do that, but he would play sort of a similar role to what he did in being a guy who's going to, tote the ball maybe 15 to 20 times and be an early down back and let Tyjae kind of take over the third down back roles, pass catching and pass protection and things like that.
Yeah, 100% totally. I like Breece Hall.
That's another one too. That was I kind of forgot about, but
I like Breece Hall. I mean, just the solid connection.
That's true as well.
I think they really liked each other. Now talk about staying healthy. That's another guy.
Yeah, that is also true. It's just so tough because that's why so many of these guys hit the market whenever they're ending their first contracts is because they just can't stay healthy. They just can't.
Yeah, exactly.
At the very least, with Javonte, it's like you saw what he was able to do last year. He was healthy for the whole season, and you saw what he was able to do. I think, I forget the stats. He was over 1,000 yards rushing, so he had a really good season there. But I think Breece Hall gives you a little more versatility in that sense because he is somebody who you can, kind of similar to the Ruben Bain thing that we talked about last episode, where it's like he is somebody who you can leave out there, can be a true 3-down back, and be okay with it.
Yeah. Sorry if my cat is making me want
to... Which one? Is it Peanut? Or is it one
of the...
It
is Peanut, making me want to make a nice, warm, fuzzy pelt. So... yeah.
Scarf, hat? What are we thinking there?
Yeah, keep me warm. Quell all this rage. But... yeah. So Breece Hall, I mean, pass catching ability, we cannot deny the talent, even though he's been injured a little bit. The connection there, Dayball scheme, I think he would work well. Can do a little bit of everything. Yeah. Tyjae's, of course, I just wonder how. I just like the connection there. I just like Breece Hall. I've always admired him as a player. He's only 24 years old. He'll be 25 by the season start. Yeah. So, I mean, that's plenty of time. You get him a decent sized contract. You got plenty of money. This is where, you create the value. If you don't, I mean, this will be a big tell as well. If we sign a player like Breece Hall or Javonte Williams or Kenneth Walker, he's from Tennessee, bring him back home.
He's not leaving. He's not
leaving.
Seattle.
But I would
That's
love
not
to have
happening.
Him. He's technically a free agent, so we'll see.
They're going to tag him at the very least. Is what's going to happen.
I think exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But if he does make it, I'd love him.
I would be ecstatic with that because once again, it's basically the same thing that they have in Seattle now with him and Zach Charbonnet, except instead of Charbonnet, it's Tyjae Spears. It would literally be the exact same thing, which is never a bad recipe, obviously, but
of course, and I think that would be great. So we'll see. I think if we sign any of those guys, that we're not drafting Jeremiah Love. That can be pretty well assumed.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. We'll of course keep you updated on that. Free agency, of course, comes before the draft. So this will be a big deal. This will be a big deal coming up.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. My thing is freaking out on me for some reason. My headphone, my IFB that I have in, the thing that I clip it to also connects volume, and it just tweaks out on me sometimes. But I think that's kind of what you expect on the offensive side of the ball. A wide receiver, potentially, a guard to try to fill in that right guard spot, and then, a running back. I think are the three big parts. I don't necessarily think you see him go tight end heavily, just because most of the tight ends that are, going to be in this free agency class are just they're not the tight ends that you're going to look for. I don't think when it
You're
comes
going
to
to get
that.
a cheap tight end that can block. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you can get that as a UDFA or a late round pick. So you're not necessarily worried about that free agency.
Or a former connection somewhere, some guy that, like, whether it's a New York guy, or either New York Jets or Giants with Dayball.
Yeah.
So that's totally a thing. But don't a lot of the times when we talk about taking your medicine as well, you assume that you're not spending a whole lot of money free agency. This year, with the amount of money that we have, that is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm talking like the past couple of years, we've been an all right team, and we didn't have all the money in the world, and we wanted to sign everyone. That's how every team is. That is not the case this year. We are a bad team who has to go to bidding wars.
It's going to have a lot of money to be able to pay guys.
Exactly. So floor raisers, make your team better. Get the guy that can block. Get a few stars here and there, and then go with the draft, and we'll roll out with hopefully a 8-win team next year. Let's hope for that.
Yeah, and that's the intriguing part about all of this is that so much of this, for like the trades especially for me, is going to be dependent on what Mike Borgonzi and what Robert Saleh think this team is going to be. They can come into the media, go into these press conferences and say, I think, we're going to go out and compete for a Super Bowl, but there's not a shot in hell that they think it's going to happen this year, barring some miraculous turnaround to where you can have, Mike Vrabel-esque coaching and a really easy schedule. I think I looked at their schedule again. They play I think they play the AFC North and the NFC East, I think, of the two divisions that they play.
I believe so.
I'm trying to remember that specifically, but those are the two divisions they play. So not the worst divisions in the world to be playing, but so much of this is going to depend on what they think this team's ceiling is going to be, or what they think this team is going to do here in 2026. Do they think this is going to be a team that's going to compete for a wild card spot? Then I think you're going to see them kind of drive away and potentially go after a big fish in the trade market, whether it be a George Pickens or somebody else that we didn't mention. I don't know who else it would be, but somebody else we didn't mention. They're going to go after a big fish in the trade market and send off first-round pick next year because they don't think they're going to be in a high enough situation to really warrant anybody that's going to be better than trading for a superstar with that pick. If they think it's going to be a similar season to what we've seen, which I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it'll kind of be, split the difference. They'll probably sit around anywhere from 6 through 9 picking wise, because I don't necessarily see them competing for a wild card spot. I think they'll compete up until like week, I think they'll compete until like the midway point between trade deadline and the end of the season, and then they'll eventually get eliminated from there. But I think if the expectation is that they're going to have another high draft pick, then yeah, you go with a lot of these glue guys. And I think they're going to go with a lot of these glue guys anyways, like you said, but you don't necessarily go for the superstar big splash in this cycle, in this offseason cycle, but instead you look for that big splash in the draft. So,
and of course, we also need to account that Brian Daboll is only going to be here for potentially 1 year.
That's also true.
So, this could also be a motivating factor. I think Saleh may come together with this team and be like, hey, of course we need to find guys that are fit for the long term, but, let's get some guys in here that could, maybe let's make a little bit of push and see what kind of noise we can make.
Exactly.
I think the AFC is always pretty wide open. I think it's not like college football. I think NFL is very wide open every year. Teams change all the time. Just look at the Patriots, man.
Look at both these teams. I think they were both like long shots betting wise at the start of the year to even make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and both. One's a first-year coach. He's coached before, but with a new team, you never know how it's going to go. And then you've got a year 2 coach, and Mike McDonald with the Seahawks. With some some talent. I mean, when they signed Sam Darnold, I don't think anyone expected them to go win the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold, which I love. I love
Yeah,
the story of
I love
Sam
that.
Darnold. I love it. I
It's
loved
awesome,
watching that
dude.
team. It was great. It was fun. I actually liked watching it. Now the Super Bowl itself was really boring for a while, but
It was
you know,
bad. What do you think Vikings fans are feeling right now?
dude, I hope they feel awful. I
It's
really
like
do.
I know I've seen a lot of stuff with like, oh, Jets fans must feel sick to their stomach. I'm like, dude, they had like 3 years of him, and he was awful every
Yeah.
single year. It's not like he's 2 years removed from playing with the Jets. He's like, it's been 3 or 4 seasons, like,
Yeah, he's
and he
grown a
still
lot.
wasn't good. The first 2 seasons
Wasn't good with
after he left New
Carolina.
York, he was a
Yeah,
backup
he was.
in San Francisco, and then goes to the Vikings. JJ McCarthy gets hurt. He plays out of his mind and goes to Seattle. It's like
Yeah,
I see a lot of that shit with Jets fans. It's like, Jets fans, look at Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl. It's like, good for. I'm sure they're probably ecstatic for him. I'm sure they
yeah,
probably
I'm
are
sure they
awesome.
like it. He seemed like a nice guy. He seemed like he
It's
cared.
the Vikings fans that are like, fuck, we traded him for 9.
Yeah,
Stupid as hell. But
JJ McCarthy, I could tell you that he was going to be bad. I just knew.
turns out the guy who only had to throw the ball 15 times in the national championship is going to be a not great quarterback at first. But we'll see. I think he's got the tools to be a good quarterback. We'll see. But sort of moving on from the offensive side of the ball, we talked about that a lot. I think defensively, there's really one spot that you're looking at splash-wise, and it's corner. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Secondary if you want, but mostly corner. Man, we said in the last episode, or you said in the last episode, this is going to be a completely worked over room in that corner room where you're going to have guys. There's a really good chance that L'Jarius Sneed is going to get cut because he is just. You want to talk about a guy not playing? I think he's played in less than half of the games he's been with the Titans.
Yep. And when he's played, he's been awful. He sucked my balls from the back.
Yeah, it just. For me, they're probably going to end up cutting him. You don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Armour-Davis, and this is just going to be a completely different looking room, and it's going to start in free agency. There's some of these top guys that could leave, could go into free agency. I think Jamel Dean is considered the top, cornerback. I've also seen Tariq Woolen and Eric Stokes, a couple of guys who have had good pasts and maybe not the best, recent, numbers, but have still looked good at points, and I think would benefit in being in a system that doesn't really ask a whole lot of you from a coverage standpoint. It's just kind of, hey, go back and don't get beat over the top, basically. But I'm curious to what.
Don't let your D-line work, son.
It's like, yeah, I'm curious to see what you are looking at in particular. And we can start. You can say anybody on the defense, but I just don't see any way that you look at this and say, yeah, this is. We're going to look at getting a big fish on the D line or in the linebacker room.
I really think you could, unless.
Okay.
I mean.
Oh, I know you're.
That's. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's one.
There's
one
one
on the D line that's pretty big fish who I think
out on the strip of Nevada.
There's that one.
Oh, is that not who you're talking about?
No, I was talking about Trey Henderson.
Yeah.
Who's actually a free agent. I think he doesn't want to be in Cincinnati at all, clearly.
I don't know why you would be. That place is a dumpster
Zach
fire.
Taylor, I don't know how he's still a head coach.
Yeah.
I think he's a horrible head coach. I think he got lucky by having Joe Burrow and, Jamar Chase and all these crazy offensive talents. He's okay at calling the ball, but I don't think he's a calling plays. I don't think he's a great head coach.
No, he's not.
I think if Saleh's mindset, like we just talked about this, if their mindset is to go out and make a wild card push, that's the guy you go get. I mean, you trade for a Max Crosby, or you make a move on the defense, because you got to think the defense is going to win you the games. I think our defense is many steps ahead of our offense in many ways. Not too many, but enough to where if they add a few pieces here and there, it could be a really nasty defense. And I could totally see that.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. And I don't mean to cut you off here, but I'm curious on what your thoughts are. If they do decide to go with the Trey Hendrickson or trade for a Max Crosby, what do you think that does with the 4th overall pick? Because I think we both said Ruben Bain was going to be the pick. But if they do decide to go out there and get a Max Crosby or a Trey Hendrickson, I mean, that kind of eliminates, unless you just want to try and build a total 3-headed monster on the defensive line with, Jeff Simmons and who one of those two, whether it be Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson, and then whether it's David Bailey or Ruben Bain. I mean, what would you do in that scenario if they do decide to go that route?
I mean, I think with the 4th overall pick, you're trading your 1st overall pick this year, and hopefully not a 1st next year, maybe a 2nd this year. Your 1st and 2nd this year, I don't know, maybe.
It's going to be probably multiple 1st-round picks. If you're referring to Max Crosby, it'll be multiple because he is too good of a player.
Yeah. So, honestly, I think it would still be worth it to me because you're hoping in those 2 drafts you're getting a player of Max Crosby caliber in any way, shape, or form. I mean, that guy is a monster. It kind of goes against the philosophy I was saying earlier.
Sit back and wait.
But this
Max.
is all about what they think this team can do, and I am so far trusting of them. If they think that this team can make a push if we stay healthy, and we are a disciplined football team, I am all for it. Basically, here's the finally. It feels good to say this. It feels like I can trust the direction this team is going based on what they pick. I feel like for the longest time, it was like there was no direction.
Yeah.
We just picked players, and Rand Carthon was just like, let's sign the biggest names we can. So I think what is actually going to happen is Trey Hendrickson is a free agent.
Yeah.
So now, there's he's probably not going to make it. He's going to stay in Cincinnati. Let's be real. But if he does come to free agency and somehow in the perfect scenario that happens, sign him. Just immediately sign him if he makes it out there. Pay him whatever he wants. That'll be your guy, and you still have a 1st-round pick, and then you get Ruben Bain or a Caleb Downs or whatever.
You could trade back and, like we talked about, trade back and go after a corner potentially.
Yes, of course. And I mean, and then Tariq Woolen in free agency as well. I mean, he'd be great.
I think with corner, I like the Trey Hendrickson idea. I didn't really think about that, realistically. I don't know if he's going to make it out. He seems like it's somebody
not super realistic, but it's fun.
My only thing is that they tagged him last year, right? That was the whole thing. They tagged him and then gave him a little bit more money, I think was what happened. Gave him a little bit more money, so they didn't end up actually using the tag, but he still obviously played. I mean, if I'm Trey Hendrickson, man, it's so tough because the franchise tag is really hard to get around. But also, I think if they don't franchise tag, there's no shot that he's going back to Cincinnati. With everything that's happened there, it's clear they don't care about the defensive side of the ball and actually producing good players on the defensive side of the ball, on top of last year's whole shtick with Shamar Stewart and not haggling price with him, which was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my life. It was so stupid that they did that, and I think that just shows the true colors of the Bengals front office and the Bengals ownership, that it's just a garbagely run franchise. It's a terribly run franchise from top to bottom, and the only reason they've done as well as they have is because of Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And Joe Burrow hasn't been able to stay healthy. So, it's just, I like the idea of it if he does make it, because you have that opportunity to say, hey, you now have a couple of options. You can build a 3-headed monster, like we said, whether it's, David Bailey or Ruben Bain. So then you have Big Jeff, Trey Hendrickson, and Ruben Bain / Devondre Sweat as well. I've seen stuff where people kind of want to trade him, where people kind of want to get rid of him.
I don't get it. I think he's a promising young talent, and that's all that you want on your team. Promising young players who plays a bunch of snaps. Like, I think
Yeah.
people in their heads still think he's the really fat player that doesn't. He doesn't come off the field. He is just always on the field. Now, he does come out sometimes because he is 400 pounds, but who does it? Literally
Yeah.
every player does that, you know. But he is on the field more than most, and that's the whole scare of it. And they're just like, oh, why wouldn't they want?
Why do they want Fatty?
What are you talking
Get
about?
rid of Fatty. And it's like, okay, whatever, man.
He's just only
But
good at the thing he was drafted for and that he played. Like, it's just like, what are you talking? Okay,
yeah, he's
whatever.
big run. It's like just instrumental in the run defense, man. Good luck moving him.
First round pick, Tavondre Sweat, and then
Well, Big
I
Jeff,
don't know.
Trey Hendrickson, and then Sweat, and whether it's David Bailey or
hold on,
Ruben
hold on, I'm
Bain.
cooking here. Let a brother cook. Let a brother cook real quick.
My fault.
A first round pick, Tavondre Sweat, and let's go this year's second round pick for Max Crosby. I would take that.
The Raiders
because that's a
take that.
really
Is the
solid
question.
player. Second round pick this year and a first round pick this year.
I think it's going to be multiple first round. I don't think you can get away with just one. I don't think you get away with just one in this scenario. I got to be honest with you. Even with Max Crosby not wanting to be there, he's not going to. I don't think they're going to get rid of him for just one pick. But
I don't think they're going to get rid of him in general. But
they won't. But yeah, I know what you mean. If they were to trade, it's going to take more than one first round pick to go out and get him.
I hope
Is the
not.
only thing. So,
I hope not.
but going back to the Trey Hendrickson, I do like that. I really do. You have that option of building a three-headed monster with him, Ruben Bain, or David Bailey, and Jeff Simmons. Or if you wanted to go a different route, trade back, try to get some capital for next season, and go after a corner or a Caleb Downs. Well, Caleb Downs might be a little bit interesting. You'd have to sort of see about trading back, but I think the surefire thing would be a 4. Point being, gives you a lot of flexibility with that first round pick for this year and being able to garner capital and trade back and still pick up a position of need on the defensive side of the ball, which is going to be corner in my eyes, but could end up going with, Caleb Downs, another dude who I know is going to be a free agent this year at the safety, the mayor, Mr. Kevin Byard.
Mayor of Murfreesboro, brother.
Could be.
Welcome back.
Probably not. I think he's going to resign with the Bears, kind of what the projection is, but
Probably so.
that'd be kind of swag. That'd be pretty cool
That would be
to see
great to
him
have
come
him
back. The mayor of Murfreesboro, man. That would be
Could
sick
go
as
to the
hell.
Patriots, though.
I think he'd die in my eyes if that happened. I think he'd die. It'd be like The Incredibles whenever takes down the picture. It's like, you're supposed to be my hero. Scumbag. You're evil now. But, that could be an option. But I think with corner, it's so tough because this is one of those things where I think you throw the bag at the best guy, and the best guy is Jamel Dean. Now, I could be wrong about that. You might want to go with the budget option, or not necessarily a budget, but a less expensive option. But I think when it comes to corner and the amount of space that Tennessee has and the complete need of cornerbacks, it just makes perfect sense to bring in Jamel Dean and have him be kind of the cornerstone of that secondary, or at least in the cornerback room, to allow for some potentially these younger guys who are on the IR, been hurt, or come up through the draft can have an opportunity and maybe not rely your whole shtick on free agency. But I think when it comes to it's going to be very similar. I'm going to keep bringing up Dolphin stuff, but it's going to be very similar to when Brian Flores was first hired, and what he ended up doing is because the two systems are different, but they're the same in the sense that you want really good corners to be able to bolster your secondary. Because for one, you're going to have, for Brian Flores' system, you're going to be blitzing a lot. So you've got to have guys that are good in coverage that can, be able to have, not be a super liability and get beat deep in coverage or whatever. And then with Robert Saleh, it's different, but you still want to have good quarterbacks that can cover guys to let your defensive line get home with some of these 4-man, 3-man, potentially 5-man pressures. And I think well, what Miami did was they signed, the top corner in that class. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name right now. I can't believe it was the Cowboys corner, long jump guy, Byron Jones. That's his name. I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
Byron Jones. He was the top corner in that class, one of the top free agents. Miami goes ahead and signs him, becomes kind of a really good secondary with him and Xavier Howard, because it was that next season that Xavier Howard had double-digit interceptions for the first time in like 30 years. But still, it can be the same thing here with Robert Saleh bringing in one of the best corners in this free agent class in Jamel Dean to try and really revolutionize this whole turnaround in the cornerback room for Tennessee, starting with one of the better corners in the league in Jamel Dean, and then maybe focus a little bit on some of the guys in-house that you have alongside in this draft as well.
Yeah, 100% for sure. I can see that as a possibility. I think they go cheap, but signing a vet that's a really good player in a room of need is never going to be a bad thing.
No.
So I wouldn't be mad about that, and we have the money to do it. Sign everyone that you can.
That's a big part of it too. That's a big part of it too, is that you don't have to worry about pinching pennies like a lot of these other teams have. You can be okay with overspending a little bit to go get a player that's going to perform really well for you, and I feel like that's what Jamel Dean's going to be able to do. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me to see him go with a cheaper option, whether it's a Tariq Woolen and Eric Stokes. There are other guys that I'm forgetting the names of that are kind of in between that range as well. But they're going to go after at least like multiple corners in free agency. So it's not going to be just him, because
it's going to be two probably.
Yeah. It's going to be
one really cheap option and then one probably moderate.
Yeah. You're going to want a guy who can be a little bit of a depth piece, somebody who, you trust being out there for select snaps, but you don't necessarily want him out on the field, playing most of the snaps, and then another guy who it's like, yeah, he's probably going to be more than likely shadowing. Maybe not shadowing, but, more than likely shadowing best players, best wide receivers on the roster, because he's going to try and be the de facto lockdown guy. Will he? I don't know.
Saleh needs his sauce, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I just don't really know what else they attack that isn't depth needs, right?
Yeah, it's always going to be depth. There's going to be a lot of depth. There's going to be depth on the defensive line. There's going to be depth in the corner. It's going to be potentially a safety signing somewhere.
The mayor,
because there's a potential to cut Xavier Woods. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could happen, and I think, of course, we're going to keep doing these episodes.
Yeah. Especially leading up
when
into
it happens,
free
we're going to have a
agency.
reaction to day one of free agency, and that'll be a whole lot of fun. That is one of the most exciting days of the year. I love it. It is so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really excited about that.
No, it's going to be super duper exciting. I don't have anything else. Do you have any parting thoughts for us here?
No, I mean, I'm just excited to see the mindset. Like, of course, we got plenty of other episodes to record and keep us busy until then, and maybe we'll pick up hints and clues here and there.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll see. I'm really excited about it.
This is going to be one of the busier Titans off seasons, I feel like, that's happened in a while, with the new stadium, the new jerseys, the rivalry jerseys, and then obviously they're going to be popping up a lot in free agency because of how much money they have. So
yeah, it's
gonna be pretty fun, and then of course the draft and things like that. But there's one of the busier off seasons for the Titans in my memory, at the very least. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I mean, the one I can think of is, of course, the Rand Carthon signing Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Chidobe Awuzie, Lloyd Cushenberry. A lot of big contracts because we had similar money, right? And honestly, a very similar setup. We had Will Levis coming off a year that was pretty promising. If we would have had a head coach that wasn't an absolute moron, maybe Will Levis would have had a better time. Maybe Will Levis would have been a better quarterback. I don't think he would have. You never know, though. We'll see.
Maybe we wouldn't get our weekly Will Levis photo of him diving and sitting there face first in the dirt after he throws a pick six to lose the game.
Which, by the way, Brian Callahan has been announced to be the quarterback coach for the New York Giants.
Did this just happen? Okay.
This happened earlier today.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I saw that there were rumors of him potentially getting that, but I wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen or not.
So Matt Nagy, OC, our old head coach at quarterback, which, by the way, he's going to do a great job with that. Brian Callahan is a good quarterback coach, not a good offensive play caller, and not a good head coach. Yeah. Everywhere he's gone, they've seemed to really enjoyed having him as a quarterback coach.
I can almost guarantee you he is going to be calling plays at some point this next season. He's going to be calling plays. Matt Nagy? Or not Matt Nagy. Who did you say? Was it Matt Nagy?
Matt Nagy's the offensive play caller.
Why?
It's just stupid.
Dude, it's like the Giants made such a great, perfect hire of John Harbaugh. And then you literally just take a massive shit all over it with Matt Nagy.
Dude, these Giants fans, after they hired Harbaugh, after Harbaugh didn't come to Tennessee, which we would have hired his ass, it was, enjoy Matt Nagy. And guess what, brother? Guess what? Get ready. You got a year of them. Suck my balls, son.
We'll see about the year. But, yeah, busy. I dropped my pen. Busy free agent time, busy off-season time. We'll come at you with some more, any news that comes out about really anything Titans related, on top of some fun stuff as well. NHL, we'll see what the Preds do. Not looking great, but obviously on the break right now. But the Olympic break, the Preds, and then the Sounds as well. Their season's getting ready to start here in the next couple of months.
Vanderbilt baseball.
Vanderbilt.
Little check-in before opening day. We'll see what's going on.
Dude, I got to tell you about something. My dad and brother had a couple altercations at the OU Vandy game at the end of it. Where like
Why
some...
is that?
Well, it's just some... There was this older couple that was sitting in front of them that were, Vandy fans. And it was getting towards the end of the game. I think it was during the midst of when Vandy was making their comeback. I think they were down 12 at that point. And... the wife turned around to my brother and dad and said, "I can't believe you guys keep losing these games. Like, I've kept up with some of it. I can't believe you guys keep losing these games. Up 12 with like 4 minutes left to play." So my dad promptly responds like, well, game's not over yet. And then about 2 minutes later, the husband says the same thing. Turns around and says the same fucking thing to him. And it's like, okay, well, the game's not over yet. So there was that, and then after the game, after they'd won, there was this dude that was with his kid, was looking at my brother and dad and shaking his head. It's like, you guys shouldn't be celebrating this win. Nothing was prompted towards it. They literally just said that out of the blue. And
Vandy fans get a little taste of victory, and they don't know how to freaking act.
That was... I got to be honest with you here. I like Vanderbilt, but the fact that I even heard, I did not ever expect to sit here and say that Vandy fans were going to be fucking assholes. That's the last thing I think you'd expect. Maybe in baseball, but even now, a lot of the SEC is caught up with Vandy at this point. And, partially surpassed them in some senses. But you just don't really expect it from some of these other sports. I think it's the Diego Pavia effect. I think I don't even know what to call it. His
swagger.
I guess I'd call it that. That's a really loose term for it. But I think him and his family have changed the demeanor of the Vanderbilt fan base.
Nah, but you got to think, if it was like if they were real haters, they'd just be like, "Fuck you, pussy," and just walk off. Nah, they were like, "This win doesn't count." That's totally a Vandy fan thing, though. That's totally a Vandy fan. It's like, this doesn't count because statistics says, that's how it is.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. You reminded me about that with the baseball stuff. But I'm looking to get back out there, man. That was fun. Those Vandy games we went to were pretty fun.
Right, dude. The Kentucky game walk off.
Oh my gosh,
freaking blast!
Got to see awesome. Kumar Rocker pitch, dude. I love Kumar, man.
My guy.
Love that guy.
Yeah, Kumar.
Proceeded to shit all over the Mets. It's like, no, I'm not going to sign with you, idiot. And then proceeded to get drafted. What was it, 3rd overall to the Rangers?
Yes.
Dude, love that.
Him and Jack Leiter reunited.
Yeah. Glad to see he's doing better. I know in his first season, I don't think it was full season, maybe in the first half season, like his rookie year, that brother was buns. He was bad.
Yeah, it just takes a minute. He moved up too quick.
Yeah. Well, that was when the Rangers had a bunch of their pitchers go out. Like I think it was just Nathan Eovaldi. Like Jacob DeGrom was out
super early.
It's like DeGrom was and he wasn't even pitching all that great. I think he was in AAA at that point. He wasn't even pitching all that great in AAA. I think he had like a +4 ERA. So it's like I guess it was just kind of something to bring in tickets. I guess I have no idea, but either way, glad to see that he's doing good now.
He was their second or first overall pick. He's a big name. He's got a former MLB dad, so it's like
Hall of Fame dad.
He was huge.
So. Yeah, so I think they just brought him in to bring tickets, and then when he got fucking shelled, he was like, okay, maybe not. Maybe we need to send him back down and let him get some time. But I'm glad him and Kumar are doing well. I think they're both they're both going to be on the opening day roster for Texas, so got to be rooting for them. But that's it. That's our free agency trade targets. I'm sure we'll talk about this again here in the upcoming weeks into free agency, also breaking down any of the news that happens in between then. I mean, draft news as well, fun stuff, all the above. We're going to be talking all things Titans and Nashville sports.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of Nashville sports. We think that's going to be fun. So we're
really fun, especially here in the off season when there's going to be dry spells. Once we get kind of past draft and off season, there's going to be some major dry spells. So it's going to be pretty fun to talk about all things Nashville sports as well. But I think that's it. No parting words from you. No smart comments. Animal.
You're sus.
Thanks, man. That's it. I'm Ryan. He's Ethan. We'll be back next episode. See ya.